Is it ever okay to put something up that's honest, to put things on a CV that are not true?
So Rachel Reeves has changed her CV today. It's the second time she's had to correct it. So just to fill you in, she said many times, for example, that she worked for the Bank of England for the best part of a decade. Her CV showed it was less than that, and today it's been cut further, changed again to show it was only 5.5 years. She also changed how long she worked at a previous bank, Halifax Bank of Scotland. And previously, her CV said that she was, and she often said herself, that she was an economist at the Bank of Scotland. Last year, she changed that to a role of retail banking. So a few changes there.
Well, let's be clear. What we're talking about is not a CV. What we're talking about is a LinkedIn account produced by her staff, which she didn't see before it went up. Now, I'm sure she...
Yeah, but it said what job she'd done, and to everyone else, that sounds a bit like a CV.
Well, no, a CV is what you submit to somebody when you're trying to get a job, and it would be wholly wrong if what you said on that was not true. But this was a LinkedIn account.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that. People need jobs to be able to live. You can't live if you do not have a source of income. If you need to bend the truth slightly in a written piece of paper that some bell-end boss is going to read and then discard after 10 minutes, right? And you need to do that to be able to get a job. You need that pays the fucking bills. Go for it.
When brought to her attention, she's corrected it.
She's also said that she worked at the Bank of England for the best part of a decade. She said that many times.
She said it. She said it in a speech, and I think one other article.
Yes, but in fact, it was 5.5 years. That's quite a lot less than that.
The point here, Fiona, is actually she is probably the best qualified Chancellor that we've had for a considerable period of time. She is a trained economist, which is, you know, given some of the sort of chaos we've had from Chancellors and Prime Ministers in budgets in the recent past, is actually something really, really important. And in the end, I think the proof of Rachel Reeves' value and significance will be whether or not she can, as we are attempting to do now, move ourselves out of the stagnation of the last government, fix the foundations of the economy, ensure that we're actually able to grow the economy in the way that she's been absolutely relentless in focusing on. And I think that will be, rather than the sort
honestly,
playing
you might
the
as well
woman
at this point just replace every single Labour politician with ChatGPT. Please, can you give me a bunch of buzzwords that have been used on the campaign trail from the Labour Party 2022 to 2025? Just get ChatGPT to write it. Just replace it. Who fucking cares at this point? And also on top of this, what I will defend Jackie Smith on here, when she said that Rachel is probably the most qualified person we've had to be Chancellor of the Exchequer in quite a long time, this is basically true.
Yeah.
Like, Rishi Sunak may have been somebody who worked at a bank, but he was somebody who worked at a bank doing dodgy fucking trades, right? He was working at, was it Goldman Sachs or Deutsche Bank during the global financial crisis? Not exactly a great record, and doing that kind of banking rather than, you know, working at the Bank of England that's a different thing. Central banking is much different to other kind of banking, like what Rishi Sunak was doing. And on top of that, if you go backwards, like Kwasi Kwarteng, I think that speaks for itself. Philip Hammond, terrible. And George Osborne, like fuck was he qualified? His degree was in modern history, and he worked as a journalist.
What a loser.
Exactly. Well, I mean, having a history degree, great. Loads of things to learn about history. Is that a qualification for becoming Chancellor of the Exchequer?
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
And that's the problem, is that people bang on about Rachel Reeves being Rachel from accounts. And again, whatever, she lied on her CV. And you can criticise her policy, because I think her policy isn't very good. But the idea that somehow she is uniquely unqualified when the worst Chancellor of all time is George Osborne, and he was somebody who was woefully unqualified, never worked in economics, never studied economics, did nothing related to the sort, and destroyed the economy from the inside out. It's so rich. And you know why? The only difference between these people, one went to state school, one went to private school, and then Oxford. Because people will try and claim it's about misogyny, and maybe there is a little bit of misogyny in there, but let's be real. It's because she's state educated and didn't go to a posh school and doesn't have mates in the press that this shit goes around. And it's because she's not from the upper class that George Osborne is. That's the simple reason, the simple fact of the matter.
Well, the fact is she was applying for a job. She was applying for the job of Chancellor of the United Kingdom before the election, and she made quite a lot of those qualifications that you just described, Jackie.
Well,
Posh in a really annoying way. It's like, it reminds me of the Family Guy character, the bottom tooth guy.
Yeah, it does.
It's that. It's posh in a very annoying way.
Is a trained economist.
Well, she said things about herself that turn out not to be the case. But I'd agree with you that the real test is in her actual performance. And I don't think much of her qualifications as an economist if she's doing what she's done in the economy. So we've just had growth figures out today showing that growth is non-existent in this country. We've had 2 consecutive quarters of flatlining growth. We've got inflation rising. We've got unemployment rising. We've got serious forecasts from the Bank of England suggesting that the economy is on the wrong trajectory, and it's precisely because of Rachel Reeves's budget. And I'm not going to defend.
No, it's not though. I would like to
I'm not
pause
going to,
right
before
here.
you go into
That's a straight up lie. Like, the Bank of England and people did revise their figures on growth, but they specifically targeted the start of economic stagnation as being coming from before the election and before the budget. So the economic downturn, as far as I'm concerned, is the residual effect of interest rate rises that take about 18 months to go through, and that's roughly lines up when interest rates start going up during the inflationary period. It's making the economy slow down, right? We have seen higher growth than we expected in the growth figures that have been released today. And again, like, my concern isn't with these numbers. My concern is with people's living standards, and that's what I feel like the government are going to fail on if they don't improve, right? It's the actual material reality of people in this country I care about. But even if you just go by fucking red line go up, that's just what he's saying is completely untrue.
Yeah. But are we expecting we had the best economy in the G7 lie? Because again, they're all robots, all of them. They're all chat GPT spewing out the same bollocks.
onto the inheritance. By the way, the economy was improving significantly at the last election, but I recognise our economy needs significant work. But Rachel came in promising to get things right, and so far we've seen people losing their jobs across the country. She's taking away benefits from pensioners. She's harming the rural economy.
Whoa, hang on, whoa. Imagine people taking benefits away from people. That's shocking. Can you think of any other governments, Daniel, that might have done that in recent times, leading to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people?
It's very interesting. He's very happy to bring up how terrible it is that they're taking benefits away from pensioners. Silence, radio silence about the benefits they're trying to take away from disabled people that they only got stopped from taking away because of the judicial review that went against the government. And again, this was the same disability cuts that the other government were planning to do on when Mel Stride was Working Pension Secretary under the Conservative Party. And what they've continued to do from 2010 until today. All we've had is benefit cuts, apart from a very short period where Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, where he wanted to uprate them with inflation. There was literally a very short period where benefits went up very slightly. Every other government has just fucking slashed them across the board over and over and over again. Well, suddenly you touch, right? Suddenly you touch the people with the most wealth in the country's benefits, because that's what pensioners are, the demographic of people who are the richest, who have the most amount of wealth broadly as a demographic in this country. You touch their benefits, well, woe betide you, good sir, should you wish to tamper with the benefits of people living in £1 million houses in rural southeast. I don't support removing the winter fuel allowance. It's a universal benefit. I support universalism. I think you should tax it back from the richer pensioners, right? But if you're going to choose one benefit to defend against cuts, you should definitely pick the one that is for the most vulnerable, i.e. the young and the disabled, and not for the group which actually has the most money, which is pensioners.
Directly, she's putting national insurance contributions on employers everywhere.
No,
an
the
anti-growth
employers.
job, so I don't think much of her qualifications, if that's what she's got.
Okay, let me come back to you, Jack. I know you want to come back. I will a little bit later.
Wow, a lot of claps going on there.
I think what we want from our politicians, certainly what I want from our politicians, is a policy and the behaviour of radical transparency. It's absolutely not okay when things are not transparent, because it undermines the other messages that are really important. And as for the budget and the economy, we've got a government now that's promising to halve violence against women and girls in 10 years, and yet has dedicated no further money towards making that happen. That doesn't.
But it's okay, because the police are going to take. Oh no, they're all rapists.
They're going to increase defence spending to 2.5%. No money for violence against women and girls, though, because there's a £22 billion black hole.
That does protect them from violence from Vladimir Putin, though. So when you think about it, all defence spending is defence spending for women and girls.
True. The definite 100% attack from Russia onto UK soil is definitely happening.
Definitely going to happen. So when you think about it, nuclear bombs stop domestic violence.
Doesn't sound to me like somebody's really thought of the economics of that promise.
All right, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously it's not okay, to go back to Catherine's question, to mislead people on your LinkedIn, to lie to people, whichever it is. I mean, this was a government, a Labour government that, remember, came in on the big play that they were going to restore trust in British politics, they were going to return integrity to public life. And, you know, if this had happened under any other party, we wouldn't hear the end of it, right? So we all know that. But the bigger problem, I think...
What's frustrating, right?
...with Rachel...
is that his broad point here is correct, that the Labour Party did run on integrity in politics. They did run on bringing trust back to the public realm. They did run on being the adults in the room after the Tory chaos, right? But a couple of white lies on Rachel Reeves' fucking LinkedIn profile, a couple of white lies on her profile, this is nothing, absolutely nothing at all. It's of complete irrelevance compared to, like, the absolute litany of broken pledges, the deliberate mistruths in their their election mandate beforehand.
They're just blatant financial corruption. Blatant financial corruption.
Exactly. Like,
yeah, but I don't care. In terms of malfeasance, if the worst the Labour Party ever did was some half-truths on a LinkedIn CV, I'd think they were the cleanest government we've ever fucking had. It wouldn't me in the slide, I don't give a fuck. It's the fact that they're taking, you know, fucking dark, crazy money and, you know, meeting with energy companies and then dropping their green policies and all of that shit. Basically,
lying to the electorate.
You get to name government policy if you can buy him a box down the arsenal. Like, it's ridiculous.
There's so much actual malfeasance and corruption and just open lies, right? In terms of, like, telling the truth. These people just lied throughout the entirety of the election cycle by refusing to engage with questions that are being asked in good faith about the state of the economy and what they were going to do when they were in government, right? They just openly lied. Keir Starmer lied during all of his election for be the leader of the party. All of those were all lies, and so he had to essentially ditch them all and admit they were all lies, right? It was or just sparkling deception, according to Daniel Finkelstein. Like, this, it's all lies, right? But this is the real kind of tip of the iceberg. It's kind of nothing. And this is also, as Ben Sharp points out in chat as well, this is the same guy who lies and brings up nonsense statistics about people living in social housing and immigration statistics to promote racist narratives. Thank you for the spot, Ben Sharp. Trying to impugn somebody else for a white lie on their LinkedIn profile. Fuck off, Matt. Pull the other one, mate.
Ridiculous.
Reeves and the Labour government is the economic model that they are imposing on the country. They're afraid, like Conservatives are as well, both of the big parties, to challenge what we have, which is managed decline, an economy that is big tax, big debt, big spending, big net zero, big immigration, an economic model that is delivering low growth, high debt, declining...
You see, you can literally put out videos where you're like, look, I'm punching a foreigner, I'm punching an illegal immigrant, I'm throwing them into a fucking wood chipper. Look, please vote for me, reform. They won't. They'll just say you're doing high immigration. Exactly, they don't care, Labour. Stop pandering to hunts like this. They will never vote for you. You're just making it almost inevitable that Nigel Farage or whoever comes after him becomes prime minister at some point.
And also, he says, like, big tax. No, he says like big tax, big spend. When we're like just 37% of GDP in terms of taxation and spending. This is not a large amount of public spending in comparative terms to the rest of Western Europe. And this is after, of course, we had massive slashes in spending during the George Osborne period. We had huge sell-offs of the public realm throughout the Thatcher period. Right? There's no state left. What big state? There's no fucking state left. What are you gonna cut? The education system, the NHS. Well, clearly, if he's a Reform UK supporter and he spoke at their conference, he must want to sell off the NHS.
Yeah, big net zero is a nice one as well. Oh yeah, all of that massive money behind you're in the pocket of big net zero. You're part of the big net zero industrial complex, are you?
That sounds like somebody who might work for a corporation that is funded by oil money, which, of course, yes, the Legatum Foundation is.
Yeah, you might be a petrochemicals bitch.
Or, indeed, if he wants to sell off the NHS, he might work for somewhere that is funded by people with interest in private healthcare? Oh, he is, because he works for GB News, and Marshall Wace, the hedge fund of Paul Marshall that funds GB News, has hundreds of millions of dollars for investments in private healthcare. What a surprise!
GDP per capita, productivity is going the wrong way. And the problem is, you're all paying the costs of that because the bills are going through the roof, 25 to 50 billion on net zero by the end of the decade, 234 billion, according to a report this week, on mass migration, which is taking more out of the economy than it's putting in, by the way. I know that's controversial to say, but it's true.
Right.
But the reality...
It's controversial because it's incorrect.
Yeah, he says he wants to have a growing economy. Oh, we've got a low growth model. I'm like, do you think the economy is going to grow more or less if we stop the immigration? We're going to massively decrease the percentage of our population that is of working age, and we're going to have a massive bloated pensions bill. And you know what this is going to do? This is going to bring taxes down and productivity up. Well, no, actually, it's going to lead to less growth, less taxable revenue, and people who do work will get taxed more because there'll be more pensioners per capita than we had previously.
Is Westminster now has this orthodoxy, so nobody will question that economic model. Rachel Reeves won't do it, Keir Starmer won't do it, Kemi Badenoch really won't do it either. And we're terrified now of actually challenging this consensus in Westminster. And so all we've got, you, me, taxpayers, is this never-ending managed decline. And I don't think Rachel Reeves is going to solve it. I don't think the Labour government's going to solve it. I don't think the Conservatives are going to solve it. We need radical change from the status quo.
And in the strike shot.
It's so annoying because you know what he wants to do is just privatise everything and I don't know, make love to Thatcher's corpse or something, and yet he gets to make like the populist argument because the other major parties have completely abandoned that position completely and utterly.
It's true, because I mean, we do need radical change from the current economic model, and it involves less of it being owned by fucking private sector oligarchs, i.e. the people who stuff his pocket full of Emirati petrodollars.
Literally.
George, is it ever okay to put things on the CV that are not true?
No, it's not okay, but actually this is a pretty trivial issue. I know it's going to be kicked around by the media because the media
and it's not
loves
the first time that it's had to be
gossip.
amended. That's...
No, exactly. Well, it's
and
still...
it is the Chancellor. This is like the second most important person in the nation.
Fine. No, I accept all that, but actually it's a distraction from the pretty catastrophic situation in which we find ourselves. I think to the reasons that Matt puts forward, we have a Chancellor and indeed a Prime Minister who now seem to have no vision at all except this thing called growth, GDP growth. Even the person who first formulated or formalised the concept, Simon Kuznets, said it should not be used as a measure of national welfare. And in some ways, there's a direct contradiction between GDP growth and our welfare and prosperity. And we can see this in exactly what Rachel Reeves is doing. She's putting the natural world into the mincing machine to try to turn it into numbers, to try to turn it into GDP growth. With the third runway at Heathrow, with her new trunk roads, with her horrible attack on regulators and regulation. This is our public protection. This regulation is what defends people from the predations of capital, and she's saying let's sweep that away. And to make matters worse, turning on people who care about the living world, ultimately the most important thing of all, our life support systems, and abusing us.
No. In one regard, he's absolutely correct in terms of like the Just Stop Oil people and the attack on basic civil liberties and stuff like that. But also within inside that, you've got to bear in mind he is a posh lad, and there is a kind of you're allowing for NIMBYism within that.
Literally, like Ben said in chat, half correct, half NIMBY shit, and I fully agree. Because, I mean, whilst he's right, they are absolutely sweeping away the protections for our natural world. This is true. It's being done in the service of, deregulate and inshallah build 1 million homes by allowing Taylor Wimpey and Persimmon to do whatever they want, which is not what we should be doing. The issue, of course, really, is that if you're going to make these wild proclamations about the failure of Rachel Reeves as Chancellor, then you should attack her on her failure to achieve her stated aims. That she said she wanted broad-based growth in her May's lecture, right? That's what she's talked about. And she talked about, modern supply-side economics, which is essentially MMT, because that's what Janet Yellen's been doing over the Treasury. And she's not done this. She's not done this. We're not going to get broader-based growth. Her deregulatory framework is only going to lead to wealth filtering upwards to the people who get access to the development on whatever happens there, because we don't have a properly redistributive system to be able to get the capital back into public hands. That needs public-private partnerships that fundamentally benefit the people who are the partners rather than the public. And she's not doing anything to tax the already accumulated wealth of those who are wealthy. The big problem here is that it's growth, but growth for whom?
Well, exactly, yeah. Like when people talk about the stock market going up or down, as if that makes the slightest bit of difference to the majority of people. That's not actually an indicator of like wealth or well-being at all.
Exactly. And that's the problem, right? It's the Adrian Ramsey put this quite well in the election. GDP is a blunt instrument. It's fine to want to increase GDP, but you've got to think about all the implications of what that would be, and broadly, is that increasing or decreasing the standards of living across the country, which is a real metric that you should be taking into account. And when it comes to George Monbiot, what are we saying there specifically is that I don't think he's winning anybody over. But all of us care about the natural world, right? But we're in a cost of living crisis. People care about their own material circumstances. And he's missing out that if we do get a degradation of the natural world, the rich people who can afford to go anywhere and live anywhere, they're not going to be the ones who are going to see the poor end of this. They're not going to get the shitty end of the stick. It's going to be the poor, the working poor, the people who are already immiserated, who are also going to have their environments destroyed because they are not in a position to be able to migrate around it. And that's the big problem here. Is he's speaking in populist terms, but not speaking to populist issues.
Well, see, the thing is, I live on the English high veld, so I don't care. You fucking low-lying people can all drown. And as my market, the price for my house goes up and up and up, and I get a seaside tropical view. And then I sell to Aquaman. Job done.
Pointed out by Ben as well that in Keir Starmer's missions, his pledges to be Labour leader. Remember those pledges? They lasted long, didn't they?
Pledges to have a mission, to have a concept of a plan to fix the foundations.
Well, that's what they have become. But originally, there was very, very specific missions, one of which there was a pledge to set a national goal for well-being to make health as important as GDP. That's not fucking happened, has it? That was a fucking lie. Total lie. Hey there, if you enjoyed the video, make sure that you like and leave a comment. That helps the video out in the algorithm. If you subscribe and ring the bell, it'll let you know when I go live. I stream every day on YouTube and Twitch. You can also follow all of my socials down in the description. And if you want to support me in a more financial manner, there's a join button for membership. It's just 99p to be a member on YouTube, as well as a Patreon, and there's some merch there as well. And hopefully I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.